G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the round 4 stock market video. A big week in SuperCoach, some real highs, some real lows. The lows obviously being for current Daniel owners. He punched out a 19 and has done himself a naughty and got rubbed out for a week. So a big decision on what to do with Daniel there. I'll give you my advice during the video. What do we do with Isaac Heaney? We've got to trade him out now, I think anyway. Do you keep him for 4 to 5 weeks? I don't think that you can do that. Heaney's got to go. And Zack Butters is the other big injury coming out of the round, I think. A super selection for those that started him as a pod. But he's got a medium-term injury and has got to go. So we'll discuss some trading options for these type of blokes. There's a couple of players this week that we see on the bubble. Alec Waterman, the man up the top there, will be a really popular trading option this week. But there's also a couple of other sneaky selections that could be looking to make some short-term cash. So I'll leave the intro short, I'll keep it there, and as always, we'll start off with the premium defenders. So the man at the top of the list here, Sam Dougherty, after the first couple of rounds, I thought that he was actually a bit of a trap, but he's come back in rounds 3 and 4. Look, nothing spectacular, but he'll set you back 500,600 with a break-even of 75, a 3-round average of 101. He's looking to go up about 10k this week, but look, I'm not a huge advocate of the Sam Dougherty selection. In years past, he's been one of those ultra premiums down back, but I just don't think that he can return to those, really high averages. But not a disaster if you started with him. Daniel Rich, break even of 79, 513,600. I'm actually a fan of Rich as a pod selection. Takes 59% of the kick out, so that's easy points right there. And we know that he tends to kick it long. What annoys me is when Rich just chips it into the pocket there when he takes the kick out. He doesn't do it too regularly, but I just think, Daniel, kick it long, son. Kick it long, because when he kicks it long, he can kick it 55, 60 just when he chips the ball. And if he gets to just a 50-50 contest, then he'll get some effective points there. So I like Rich as a pod selection. Will he finish in the top 6 to 8 defenders? That may be a little bit of a stretch, but I certainly don't think that it's out of the realms of possibility. So an interesting pod selection there, Dan Rich. Jordan Ridley. Now, this bloke is the absolute king of the kickouts. 84% of Essendon's kickouts he takes. That is just a phenomenal number. Clearly the number 1 in the AFL at this stage. He's a must-have. I've been saying it for a couple of weeks now. The helmet, he's gone down. Ridley is now an upgrade rather than a side swap there. But look, if you've got the cash in the bank to be able to do that, I highly recommend getting Ridley in. But we are starting to pay up for him now, above 600k, but looking to go up about 16,000 if you can hit a score of 126, which I think is certainly a realistic target this week. Jack Bowes. Now, this is George's man. Congratulations for this trade-in, mate. He is taking 56% of kickouts at the moment. A real pod selection. Now, take a look at this. This is how many kicks he's had from weeks 1 to 4. In round 1, 28. Round 2, 22. Round 3, 20 kicks. And last round, a massive 31 kicks. So if you're getting 20 plus kicks a game, surely that's got to result in some nice SuperCoach scores. 600 metres gained in 3 out of 4 games, but the issue for me is that last week he only went at 67% disposal efficiency with a massive 9 muppets, so that may be a little bit of a concern, and obviously we haven't seen premium numbers previous to this year, but a new role, another year of development, and 20 plus kicks per game are really good signs, and I think that he'll be a solid selection, albeit with some risk attached. So I actually have the buy now on Jack Bowes. I think he can definitely be in the top 6 to 8 averaging defenders by the end of the year. Jaden Shaw, you know how I feel about this bloke. I still think that he is a buy now. So again, he has a really good kick out percentage rate. He's going at about 56 to 60%, I think, at the moment. So that's absolutely phenomenal. He was back in form over the weekend as well. Used the ball well, as I said in my round review. So along with Bowes and certainly Jordan Ridley, I think that he is a buy now and a really safe selection, Jaden Short. If I had the choice between going Bowes and Short, even though the average is in favour of Bowes there with a 115, I'd still be going Jaden Short. I think he's a safer selection, in my opinion anyway. Jeremy Howe, 513,000. Keep him on your watch list, but I'll never really be a huge fan of the house selection. Stewart, he's absolutely safe as houses. So if you want someone to average between 85 and 110 most weeks, then Tom Stewart is your man. Dan Houston, now, this may sound a little bit silly, but I was slightly concerned to see him play in the midfield. It didn't work overly well last year, and I'd actually prefer to see him down back. He's went from an average kick-out rate of 35% from rounds 1 to 3, but unfortunately did not take a single kick-out on the weekend. Now, other people may like to see him in the mids, but for me, I'm just going to keep him on the watch list now, and it'll be interesting to see what his role will be going forward in the season. But yeah, for me, rather than an absolute buy now, probably on the watch list, because that break even at 105, he's not going to go up a lot and he's not going to go down a lot. So I think he can be in a safe position to maybe wait a couple of weeks and reassess the Houston selection. Keller Mills, I am a fan of this pick, but if you look at the average compared to the 3 round there, then he's gone down 15 points. That's obviously due to having a massive round 1. I still think he's going to be certainly up there in the top 6 to 8 this year, but you can certainly look to wait on this selection. Luke Ryan taking 58% of the kickouts, which is a really high rate. Yeah, he just doesn't look like the Luke Ryan of 2020, does he? I haven't watched a heap of Freo football, to be quite honest, this year, but with an average of 94, 3-round average of 97, my advice would be wait until the buys, and if he comes good, maybe a last defensive upgrade. Rory Laird, most of us have him. Don't be too concerned, but I mentioned in my round review again, absolutely spewing that we didn't get a monster score from him because he was looking to go absolutely gangbusters at halftime. Jack Crisp, yeah, pretty average sort of selection here. Wouldn't look to sell, wouldn't look to buy. And Jake Lloyd the Seagull, well, he went from a season kick-out average of 52% from rounds 1 to 3 to 38% over the weekend. And funnily enough, Dawson went from a season average rounds 1 to 3 of 30% all the way up to 63% on the weekend. Now, what actually surprised me was that Lloyd was going at a kick-out rate of 52%. I didn't actually think it was that high. Just from the eye test, I think it just looked like Dawson was taking more, but I was obviously wrong there. But we can see obviously over the weekend that did affect Lloyd's score with only a 95 from him. Am I concerned? I am a little bit. I don't think that his ceiling's going to be there in 2021 like we've seen in previous years. And for the first time in a very, very long time, you'll be able to get this bloke possibly at under 600k, but never count him out from massive score. But if you're a non-owner, I'd look to wait till that break even goes down a little, couple of weeks more data on him, and possibly look to upgrade to the Seagull. And the defenders 200 to 500k, Nick Cox, well done if you selected him. I had the poo symbol on him after round 2, but he's come good, looks like a real player. Some cash to be made, but in my opinion, the ship has probably already sailed. Look, who's to say he doesn't revert back to his round 1 to 2 season average? Look, I don't think so, but there is a chance. So great to currently own him, but I wouldn't trade him in. Jack Buckley, short-term cash to be made, but price to average doesn't really excite me. Marcus Adams, I should actually have the durability symbol on him, to be quite honest, but way too risky for mine. Will be a pod, but just wouldn't go there. Shoal, 160 on the weekend and was sublime. A break-even of -5, so again, short-term cash to be made, but is he a keeper? Not in my opinion, so I wouldn't look to invest. CJ, now, just got to love this bloke, don't you? 69 in round 1 just to warm up. Then, what is it? It's a 119, a 118, and a 109. Now, do you bring him in? If you don't have him, that depends on one thing. Do you think he'll be a keeper? If yes, you can jump on. If no, I think that the ship may have sailed. But, yeah, what's my opinion? I think that there's a good chance that he may. A good chance, an okay chance. Yeah, I'm still a little bit on the fence about the pick, but if you had jumped on last week, that would have been absolutely ideal. That still would have made sense because even if he does not turn out to be a keeper, then he'll probably make enough money to make that worth your while. But if you jump on this week and he doesn't turn out to be keeper material, then you may be in a little bit of trouble. But love him as a player. Lockie Ash, he played out of his skin over the weekend. Is this a glimpse of the future into Lockie Ash? I'm not too sure. I wouldn't trust him at 371,000, and I just don't think he'll be a keeper at this stage. Lockie Young, disappointing. Job security is a little bit of a concern there. Brody Smith is a pod, 36% of the kickouts he's taking. Jordan Clark, again, a little bit more money to be made off him, but I think a popular move may be next week to even downgrade Clark to a Lockie Jones. I think that may be a pretty popular move, but if you had have gone CJ over Clark, you would have been on 416 points for CJ and only 284 for Clark. So, yeah, that's made a massive difference to your season if you end up going that way. But, look, there's arguments to trade him out this week if you really need to, but do you go down to, one of the blokes on the next page? Probably not. I'd wait another week or two on Clark, personally. Now, I probably underrated this guy as a pick because a season average of 93, round average of 93. There's a little bit of money to be made there. 59% of the kickouts this man is taking. So that's certainly adding to the fact that he's increasing his average now. But again, is he a keeper? If you think so, you may look to go there. But for me, I just don't look at a selection like this personally. And Harris Andrews, I think he'll be a bit of a trap. Doesn't have a bad average for the season of 91, but at the end of the day, he's going to be one of those yo-yo selections, a roller coaster. Get you some really nice scores one week, and then he'll get you some pretty poor scores the next. Some more defenders in the 200 to 500k bracket, but you will see a lot of red here, and I'm not a huge fan of any of the selections that you'll see on this list. Liam Duggan, he's been a terrible selection and just an absolute nothing pick. Hunter Clark, look a little bit better over the weekends, but an average of 88. He's probably not doing enough at this stage for him to be a realistic trade-in target. Fantasia, soon he's got to be on the chopping block, I think. 289,000, hasn't made a huge amount of money, but with an average of 63 and a break-even of 81, that is now in the red, which is unfortunate for him. Dougal Howard taking 65% of the kick-out, so I'm assuming this is where most of his points are coming from. So, yeah, if the opposition team have a pretty accurate day in front of goal, then Dougal may find it difficult to score well. So I wouldn't look to be going near Dougal Howard, although, pretty healthy average there of 94 for his current price point. Sard, wouldn't look to invest in him. You probably hold him if you've got him. Williams, here's a test for this week. They think that he may get up, but look, durability is always going to be a concern with this bloke. No way do you look to invest in him. If you've got him, I'd probably keep him at this stage if he plays. If he doesn't play, you've definitely got a decision on your hands. Darcy Moore, just keep him on the watch list. A down game over the weekend. Been a little bit of criticism on Moore that, look, he looks really good to the eye, I suppose, but some of the defensive stats this year do not go in his favour. But SuperCoach-wise, a real pod selection, probably better options, I think, at this stage. Lukosius, I think you've got to start to think about putting this bloke on the chopping block. Yeah, he's going to lose a lot of money, but at the same time, 419,000. If he's the worst problem you've got on your side, maybe you could look to do it, but lots of people have Caleb Daniel types that are must trades, even some like a May, Shannon Hearn. If you've got Lukosius, you don't have to trade him, but he'll always be on the chopping block simply because I don't think that he's going to be a keeper this year. Now the helmet, I was actually down at Ballarat on the weekend at Mars Stadium. I watched this game and he was absolutely unsighted. I couldn't get access to the scores during the game because my internet was going a little bit funny, but I did make a video at halftime saying that surely this bloke can't be on more than 25 points, and that was actually the case because they just weren't looking to go near Daniel. They weren't looking to use Daniel, and look, lots of us assumed that the new rules would make Daniel a really attractive pick. Great numbers in the preseason, but now other players are using the ball out of defence, and as I said, they just weren't looking for him. So I think given the fact that he's now accepted his one-match suspension, this decision is made a lot easier for you, because if he wasn't suspended, if he wasn't missing this week, sure, you've still got to stomach the score of 19, but if you think that you can get back to some form, then you may even decide to hold him because, even at the price it is at, there's not a heap that you can do in regards to sideways trading. You've got to go up or you've got to go down. But for me, he's an absolute sell at this stage because I can't see him getting back to form. As I said, I watched him over the weekend and basically didn't watch him because I couldn't even see him. His break even now is 159, obviously missing the upcoming round. If he gets a projected score Next round, when he plays 77, he'll go down 36k. He's heading quickly towards the 400k mark. So I'd probably jump ship at this stage. Who do you get in? Well, I suppose my 4 best options would be to go all the way up to Ridley, spend a bit more on a short, a Bose, or go down to a CJ. They're probably the 4 options that I'd be looking at this week for Caleb Daniel. Shannon Hearn, you've got to sell him, I think. I think it's a calf injury, but he'll be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Can't leave him on the bench for that long. Even though he has been taking a large majority of the kick-outs, you've just got to get rid of him. We're always concerned with these type of injuries with a man at this age. And Stephen May, really, really bad luck for Stephen May, but he's definitely, without a doubt, a sell. He'll go down 44,000 upon his return. I think that will be in about 4 to 5 weeks. Break even of 174 there. But for non-owners, this bloke can be a really, really cheap trade-in target. So that injury-affected score will be in his system for at least the next 2 weeks. So he'll be hovering around the 380, 360 mark. Look, could he even go lower? It depends on how he plays when he gets back on the park, Stephen May. But he's certainly on my watch list and someone that I may look to get in at a really, really cheap price upon his return. And the defenders under 250k, not a whole heap to see here. Tommy Highmore, hasn't this been disappointing that he hasn't been given games? He's still got a lot of money to make, so 60,800 if he gets a projected score of 69 when he plays his next game. I think it is a matter of when, not if. Surely he's got to come back at some stage, so I think he's a hold. Heath Chapman, I brought him in last week, and that looks to be a terrific, terrific trade-in. Now, is there still time to bring him in? I think there is. At 207,200, he looked really good, particularly on the weekend and also in round 3. So given the fact that Young is now out of the side for an extended period of time, I think he's taken over part of that role now. I think his job security looks rock solid at this stage, Chapman, particularly given the fact that he's been in some really, really good form. He's looking to go up 56,900 if he can hit a projected score of 73. He is the best buy out of this slot and still not too late to pick him up. Chris Burgess, he's a really interesting one because lots of us were expecting him to take over the number 1 ruck role given the fact that Witts is now out, but Caleb Graham spent a fair bit of time in the ruck. Even Huey Greenwood attended some ruck contests, so I don't think that he's going to be getting the ruck minutes that we were expecting, but still with a 70 average at 210, it's not going to be the worst trade-in in the world. Negative break-even of 17, looking to go up 35k if he can hit a projected score of 72. He'll certainly be a pod. I'm not a huge advocate of this trade, but if you want to go a little bit different, then I suppose you could. Luke Park, so really nice price point, obviously, at 102,400, but an average of 37. He just hasn't got a SuperCoach-friendly role. Look, I think that he'll keep his spot. He's played pretty well in that role, but he's just not going to get any of the ball, I don't think. I think he's got 10 possessions in one game. I'm not sure about the other game, but he won't see enough of the pill to be SuperCoach relevant. But again, if you're really, really desperate, at 102k, he will make a little bit of money. Connor Arden, again, not a huge fan of this pick. At his average 67, his price point 248. I'd probably avoid this pick, to be quite honest, even though he's looking to go up 34k. Jordan Butts, great job security. Certainly not a trade-in option, I don't think. There's not a lot of money to be made here. With Butts, I think if you didn't start with him, you just won't get him into your side at any stage of the season. Zack Guthrie, not even sure about his job security. Look, he's played a few games before for the Cats, and I've just never really liked him as a selection. Even when he was really, really cheap, just didn't impress me. He's pretty lightly built. I can't see a really solid or SuperCoach friendly role for him in the side. So again, a bit of a nothing rookie pick here. Looking to go up 20k if he can go 50, but I'd avoid him as a selection. And Cozzy, he probably comes back in this week, in my opinion anyway. 141,000. Look, if you've kept him, that's okay, fair enough. Even if he goes 38, he's going to make you 6k. It's all about what you project that he'll score from now on. Now, all he needs is one solid game of a 70 plus, for example, 2 to 3 goals for his price cycle to start going in the positive again. At this stage, with an average of 38, there's not going to be a heap of meat on the bone short term. But as I said, if you can get his act together, there is some positives about keeping Kaczynski. Now, on the other hand, do you go up to someone like a Heath Chapman? It's completely up to you. That's why I've got the chopping block symbol on Kaczynski, because you can keep him or you can chop him, I think, at this stage. But up to Chapman, you are now spending 60k. Whether, last week, if you had have done it like I did, it was really a straight sideways swap. So it was probably the week last week to go to Chapman. If you didn't go because he's a Chapman, that was probably for a reason. But yeah, it's going to be a tough decision. Either way, I can see merit in doing so. And Lockie Jones, you can see in the coming soon section there, 139,800, a fan favourite. Everyone's going to love this bloke. The mo, the mullet, got everything going for him. Really, really hard at the contest. So a lot to like about this selection, but obviously not included in the stock market list because he's not on the bubble yet. We'll get to see him for another week and then reassess after the coming round. Now on to the midfielders, 500k plus. So some interesting names up the top. Greenwood, he absolutely dominated on the weekend. A 3-round average of 123, so right up there, but a season average of 105. So certainly hasn't started like a house on fire, but after the big score on the weekend, his break-even's gone all the way down to a 38. His projectors go about 105, so about a 30k rise expected from Greenwood this week. Certainly going to be a pod, but I wouldn't be brave enough to go there personally. Parker, another pod, 580,000, with an average of 115 for the season, 3-round average of 125. Break-even of only 68, so he's looking to go up 17k if he can go just above 100 there. Do I like him as a selection? Was it 2 to 3 years ago? He was an absolute SuperCoach gun to start off the season, Luke Parker, but since then, he's just been below that top tier and someone who I've never really taken a really serious look at personally anyway. But if you're looking for an ultra pod and you think that he can keep this form up, Sydney are the informed team in the competition at the moment, has the youth around him really revitalised him, possibly. So look, you could go worse than Luke Parker if you want an ultra pod, but personally, not for me. I think there's better options this year. Cam Guthrie, he was right up the top last week, so still finds himself with a low break even there of 87, average of 124 on the season, 131 for a 3-round average. Again, if he can go around that 108 mark, he'll go up 9,500. Certainly a pod, but again, similar to Greenwood and Parker, personally, I just wouldn't look to go there. Patrick Crips, this was looking like a really, really bad selection. I'm not saying that it's looking like a good selection, but not the disaster that I thought it was going to be. Look, he's had a pretty solid last couple of weeks, but the concern for owners is the fact that they still haven't resulted in massive scores. So I think that his ceiling is lower than it's been in a long time, Patrick Crips, and I think that his floor is going to be pretty low at stages as well when he does go through a tough patch in the season, and it's sure to come. Look, players all go through, some really good patches and then some down patches, but when Patrick Crips does lose form eventually, and who knows when that will be, it may not happen, but I'm predicting that it will, then that will really hurt the fact that that floor has now been lowered. Jack Billings, I think that is a trap. Look, there's everything to like about the average there, 106 and 103 at a 519 price point, but look, in seasons past, he hasn't been overly relevant because I just don't think he's up there in the top tier. Treloar, he's playing really well at the moment. Nice 3-round average of a 107, but durability always going to be a concern. If you trade in Treloar, just expect him to be missing matches at some stage of the season. Jared Lyons, I really, really like this pick, and I think that he'll do a fair bit of the heavy lifting, given the fact that Lachie Neale is really struggling at this stage of the season. A price point of 600k, average of 114, 3-round average of 118. Look, he's not going to make a heap or lose a heap in the short term, but what I like about Lyons is that he's a pretty consistent type player, and he will not cop a tag. Lots of our premium selections like your Olivers, your Titches, and these type of players will cop tags at some stage of the season, but I just don't think that Jared Lyons will. So he's definitely on my watch list. I don't know if he's going to be one of my next trade-in options. I'd probably look at one of the must-have selections there, like the man I've got below him, Jack Steele, which I'll talk about in a minute. But certainly keep this bloke on your watch list and don't underrate Lions as a SuperCoach selection. Jack Steele, again, I'm going to keep this pretty simple. He is a must-have. I'm not saying that you have to go out and get him this week, but he'll be, in my personal opinion anyway, in the top 3 midfielders by season's end. I think he's an absolute lock to be in the top 3, Jack Steele, because he's just so hard at it. And I think Champion Data really like him. There's been, some interesting, not scaling, but I suppose points per impact, and that's been really favourable to Jack Steele, I think. Taking nothing away from this bloke whatsoever, because he's an absolute gun, and I think he's an absolute must-have this season, to be quite honest. So at 653,000, he's not looking to go down in price anytime soon. Not looking to absolutely skyrocket, but yeah, whenever you can get him in, just do it. And I'm looking to get Steele into my side anyway, as soon as possible. The track, he really hit form over the weekend, so that average is boosted right up to 105 now. 3-round average of 107, so pretty close there. But look, this is finally what owners were looking for. A really nice score to boost up that season average. A break-even of 109. Look, they'll think you get a 91. That's a projection there. Again, not my personal projections, but looking to go down about 8k. But again, a couple of people asked me last week, do I trade out Petrarca? What do I do with him? And my advice was to just hold and just assess this pick and see how he goes. Give him a little bit of time. And yeah, hopefully that Petrarca owners did keep the faith, and you'd be pretty happy with what he produced on the weekend. Certainly don't look to invest in him. Just look to see how he goes. Sam Welch, well, look at that. That break-even and projected score is 111 and 111, so the projected rise is actually nothing. He should stay exactly where he's at if he scores at what he's projected to score. I really like this pick, so I still think that Sam Welch is a buy now. A bit of a poorer game over the weekend. Look, what's going to happen if he cops a tag? I'm not too sure how many tags that he's going to cop during the season. I certainly think that if he gets off the leash early in a game, then he may cop some attention, some closer attention anyway, from the opposition. So that'll sort him out a little bit, I think, but still really like him as a possible top 10 averaging midfielder for the year, Sam Welch. And Touk Miller. Now, I need to give a shout out to someone. I forget who it was, sorry. But some in the comments section, would have been 1 or 2 weeks ago, said, where's Touk Miller? DR, why haven't you mentioned him in the stock market? And I said, oh, look, mate, thanks for bringing him up, but I just never really rated him as a pick. There's just so many other options this year. But if you look at his 3-round average, he's going at 114 there, break even of 116. So he won't go down a lot, won't go up a lot. But yeah, I had to give him a little bit of respect and at least chuck the pod symbol on there in case you're looking to go a little bit different. Mitch Duncan, I've got the trap symbol on in there because last year he was really underwhelming for me anyway. I think he's a bit of a fake primo, bit of a new role in 2021 down in the back line, taking some of those kickouts. Notice that a few times he didn't even play on from the square, so you're getting no points for that. But look, at 105 average, he's going higher than a Merit, who I haven't got the trap symbol on, but yeah, just not a fan of the Mitch Duncan pick. Zeret, again, has been extremely underwhelming this year. It seems like he has to do a lot to get a decent SuperCoach score, and at over 600k, the price that I paid for him, you want so much more than 104. You want a 115, probably at least, but yeah, you don't look to trade Merit. No way in the world you look to bring him in. You've just got to roll with him at this stage, I think, and hope that he comes good. Nat 5, I'll always be worried about his durability, but when he looks good, doesn't he look good? And if a few of those goals go through on the weekend, then he's looking at a monster score. But 6 behinds, I think it was in the end, what could have been for Fife owners, for those people that actually held him through that concussion period. Jack Mcrae, again, pretty simple here. He is a must-have. The earlier, the better. I'm really missing Jack Mcrae in my side at the moment, and he's hurting me because when you're up there in the top 1,000, like I'm currently at for rankings, not having someone like this bloke when lots of the other top teams do really hurts me each week. So I need to get Mcrae in as soon as possible. Had my reservations pre-season, particularly about the addition of Adam Treloar. It's a well documented if you've been watching my channel pre-season. But yeah, look, he's simply a must-have, and I watched him run absolute rings around my lines on the weekend. As a non-owner, I was shouting out, get on this bloke, would you? It was so frustrating, but he's just such a safe selection, and he's not going to come down in price in the near future. So whenever you've gotten the cash in the bank to upgrade to Mcrae, get this man in. Josh Kelly, he's the absolute opposite. I've got this bloke on the chopping block. Now, he's been playing forward. Everyone knows that if you've been watching footy for the last couple of weeks. An average of 95 on the season, 3-round average of 93. You've got one or two options, obviously. You either keep him, hold the faith, and have your fingers crossed that GWS get a new coach, or else you jump ship now, take the risk, make a bit of a brave decision, and before he gets close to the 500k mark, and we're probably expecting this if he continues to play that forward role. It's just not SuperCoach friendly. We know that he's a sublime player, one of the most skillful players in the competition, but yeah, he's just getting wasted there, in my opinion anyway. So yeah, I can see merit. If you want to hold on to him, you can. It's easy for me to say as an owner, but I'd possibly be looking to jump ship before it absolutely sinks and sails. Tom Mitchell, I'm a current owner and a very, very frustrated current owner. It seems like he needs to get 60 possessions and kick 3 goals each week to get a monster score. Now, a break even of 143, he's a type of player that can achieve a score like that, but you know, with the amount of ball that he's getting, we know he's not that dangerous, but you know, enough contested possessions, some tackles thrown in there, kicked a goal over the weekend, and I was just shocked that that wasn't at least a 120 plus score. So do you invest in Titch at the moment? Not necessarily, because yeah, champion data aren't just looking after Titch at the moment. You certainly look to get him in at some stage of the season because he's a really safe pick. He's always going to hover, you'd think, around that 110 plus for an average, but yeah, a real frustrated owner I am of Titch at this stage. The Bond, again, he's one of those players that you just wait till he has a couple of poor games. I think it's inevitable at some stage of the season, so hopefully that lines up with your current situation and you've got some cash in the bank and most likely got a rookie that you needs downgrading at that same stage. But the Bond, still a good selection and a solid selection. Someone that I think can be in the top 10 averaging midfielders this year, but just don't get him in it at the moment, I don't think. Trav Boak, yeah, well, he started up like an absolute house on fire, but now he's not looking as great as what he was. Age is always a little bit of a concern, but in saying all this, he had a career best year last year, really great finish in the Brownlow, and SuperCoach wise, I had him in for probably the last 4 to 5 weeks, and he really did reward me with some nice scores. So I'm not giving up on Trav Boak. He's still got a really healthy season average air of 117, but if you compare that to his 3-round average, that's only a 103, so you're going at a similar level to a merit over the last 3 weeks. So that's certainly not ideal. The break-even's now 155, so maybe keep him on your watch list and look to get him in if you need another midfielder and if you think that he can finish in the top 10. Oliver, I think he'll be an absolute must-have this year. I've got him pegged to finish in the top 3 averaging midfielders along with Mcrae and Steele. I'm a current owner and I'm proud of the pig, to be quite honest, because, and remember, I do say pig with great love and affection. Yeah, certainly nothing bad about that remark, man, at all. But yeah, Piggy, I was expecting him to go, look around an 80 over the weekend. I thought he'd cop a really hard tag. He did cop that tag for a large portion of the match, but he just really pushed through that. A 130, that was absolutely phenomenal. A really pleasant surprise for me as an owner. And look, if he can break through a tag like that and still score a 130, what's this bloke going to do when he gets some freedom? I can certainly see a 180 game at some stage during the season. Oh, Lockie Neal. Look, it's nice to not be an owner, but remember, I'm a mad Brisbane supporter, and I've got a lot of love for this bloke, and it's a little bit sad watching Lockie Neal at the moment. I did watch him pretty closely on the weekend. Did even check him out. Sounds wrong, doesn't it? Check him out before the game. We were staying at the same hotel as the Lions, and we met up with a couple of the blokes as they were getting onto the bus. Said g'day and all the rest, and had a look at Lockie Neal, and I said, yeah, look, he's walking all right. Here we go. Could be up for a big game, but Unfortunately not. Still got 27 possessions, but he's just not his damaging self. And I tell you what, right now, he's injured, this poor bloke. He's nowhere near 100%. And if that's the case, I just can't see him going that 105 plus average, because he's a sore man at the moment. He just needs some time off. They say that the injury's not getting worse and it's slowly getting better each week, but he's hardly training. Yeah, signs just aren't good for Lachie Neale, but to be honest, you should have listened to that advice for the last 2 to 3 weeks and have traded him out already. So you're in a tough situation at the moment, but in saying that, there are still some blokes that you can get in. Look, if you can go up to a Jack Mcrae or a Jack Steele, I'd still do it if you've got Lachie Neale, to be quite honest. But if you want to keep the faith, you can. Super risky though, and if you've still got him, yeah, terrible situation. And Andy Brayshaw, well, I've got the yin-yang symbol there as well as the tag. First couple of weeks, he was looking like absolute gold, but was it fool's gold? I still don't think that it is. Look, certainly a tough couple of weeks for the young fella. He probably hasn't had to deal with the tag too often in his career, but being the big dog, and we have said from the start of the season that Andy Brayshaw will be the big dog in the Freo midfield now, given the fact that Fife will be spending a lot more time forward. His CBA count is declining. Yeah, he's got to learn to deal with the tag. So it's not great signs what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, but I expect this young man to bounce back. Remember, not every team do go with the tagger, and there'll be certainly games where he gets some of those really big scores again. As an owner, you're extremely frustrated. Do you jump ship? I can't answer that question. It's completely up to you. But what I will say is, as a non-owner, this is really exciting. And as I said, I expect him to bounce back. So he's on my watch list. He could go around that 450k mark in a couple of weeks, and I may even look to jump on. So other people may be against that. Look, in saying that, I may look to jump on. We'll need to see him bounce back to some form. If he's getting 80s and 60s, there's no way that I'll be looking to trade him into the side. But if he can bounce back with another couple of at least 100 plus scores, then it's certainly something that I'll think about, because we certainly do need to look for some value this year. Onto the midfielders, 250 to 500k. Dyson Heppel, the man up the top, with a break even of 7, average of 90, projected rise of 24,000. If he can hit a pretty modest, I'd say, projected score of 62, he's looking like an okay selection. But for me, it's a really awkward price point, and durability is always going to be a concern with Heppel, so I wouldn't go there myself. Errol, he finds himself in this price range for the first time this season. Made some really nice early cash for us after some massive scores in rounds 1 and 2. Came back down to earth a little bit in rounds 3 and 4, but a projected score of 104 would see him rise 30k. I'm expecting him to get closer to the 75-80 mark, so we'll still rise in cash, but the ship has certainly sailed. Don't look to bring him into your side. Depending on your strategy, he could be one of the first blokes that you get rid of and either downgrade or upgrade, or else he could be one of the last blokes that you look to get rid of. So that'll be really interesting to see how people go about trading out Errol this year. William Drew, I think he's a little bit of a trap. I had the pod symbol on him for the last 2 weeks, but at that price point, I just don't see any value in selecting him as a pick. Darcy Parish, again, just thought I'd throw out a pod selection. Not huge on Parish at that price. O'Meara, durability always a concern. Tom Green, I had him in, I think it was about my second or third last version of my team reveal. But yeah, he's proven to be a trap, and really lucky that I didn't go down that path. Taranto, is he going to be a keeper? What were you expecting from him? He's currently averaging 95. As an owner, some may be happy, some may not be as happy, because you may have expected a 105 average, but I'm not too sure with Taranto. I'm not an owner myself. If you think he can be an M8 for the year, yep, great, good on you. Leave him in there. But if you don't, then you're pretty much stuck with him, or maybe one of your last upgrades. Hopper as a real pod, but not overly impressive. Selwood, look, I'll take the trap off the old fella and just put the binoculars on there, but I'm not looking to go near him myself. Cunnington, a trap. Think he may even be rubbed out this week. Maybe wrong there. Simpkin, a trap. LDU, a trap. Again, 3 blokes that play for North Melbourne. We can't expect too much from them this year. Baz, is he going to be a keeper? I certainly wouldn't look to get him into your midfield. A couple of people, I think I mentioned this last week, got really excited after his first round performance, but after that, hasn't shown a lot. Nothing to suggest that he's going to be a midfield keeper this year, so don't look to go near Baz. Adam Chera, 105 average on the year. Look, this kid could be anything, but again, there's the potential for him to be a fake primo, but just keep him on your watch list. And Andy Mcrae and Caleb Sarong, at that price point, Sarong is a bit of a nothing pick. Andy Mcrae, again, I don't like this selection. I think they're both traps. If you're current owners, you probably just hold on to them, but no way in the world that you look to invest in these blokes. So, as you can see, there's no buy nows. There's no one that I'm ultra excited about. Just not a fan of many players in this price point. And on to the midfielders under 250k. I'll keep this pretty quick because I don't think that there's anyone here that we look to invest in. Gyro, job security is a concern, but if he can play a game without starting as a medical sub, his projected score is 53. He'll go up about 45k, so quick little price rise, but would not look to go anywhere near him. Tommy Powell, thank you very much, Tommy, for your 101 over the weekend. That's generated his price cycle in the positives again. Average of 70 on the season now. Negative break even of 9. Looking to go up 34k if you can hit his season average. But the ship has sailed if you don't own him, I think. Look, you could jump on him, but look, most people that I speak to anyway all started with Tommy Powell, or at least traded him in if they didn't start with him. Lachie McNeil, I expect him to get dropped every week, but he manages to keep his spot. He'll go up 17k if he can hit a projected score of 44. If he gets named, don't trade him out, keep him in your side. Sam Berry, objected rise of 21k this week, projected score of 59, so if he can go between 50 and 60, as we probably expect, that's looking pretty likely. Tanner Bruin, yeah, really disappointing starting selection. I thought that there's a chance that he gets back into the side last week in round 4, I'm obviously talking about, but unfortunately not. Yeah, when a nice option comes along, I think you just look to trade him out. Lazaro, worried about his job security, bit of a nothing selection. Now, Will Phillips, big raps on this bloke during the pre-season. I had him in my side anyway. Lots of people did when the original team picker came out, but at 198,000, an average of 43, yeah, there's no reason to bring him in at that price point, I don't think. A break even of 31, projected score of 43. He's only looking to make 5k as it is, so I would avoid Will Phillips. Meant to be a gun, and as a North supporter, I'd still be happy with this selection because he's got great raps on him, some really, really good junior numbers, but a 43 just isn't acceptable for a price tag of 198,000, I don't think. And James Jordan, yeah, I was raving about him the first couple of rounds, had him as a must-buy. Many people brought him in, lots of us started with him, but at 205,000 with a break-even of 47, he's not going to be making a lot of cash in the short term, but he's the type of player I think that can pull out an 80 and get that price cycle going towards the positive signal again. Do you trade him out? I wouldn't trade him out at this stage. I'd probably keep on to him because I do like him as a player, but a really low score over the weekend. It was a 24 from memory. That's certainly not acceptable to have on field, and I've got in the bubble there that Finn Mcrae, a mid-forward that many of us, again, had in our teams during the preseason, will debut this week. That's something that you may look to do. I'll be looking to get Finn Mcrae in when he's on the bubble, and if everything's looking good, obviously, with some decent job security, and he could be a candidate, James Jordan, but we'll talk about that probably in a week or two. On to the rucks. I'll keep this pretty short. Brody Grundy and Max Gawn, we'll all want them by season's end, so whenever you can get to Grundy or Gawn, I think that's going to be a good decision for your side. Matt Flynn up the top. I've got to buy now, plus the job security on him, because he was said to have been rested over the weekend, but the way Sausages Mumford played, yeah, there's probably no reason to drop him after last week's performance and maybe give Flinny another week's rest, because there's no way that I can see Mumford playing for more than 2 to 3 weeks in a row. I'm just not sure if his body will allow him to do so. So Flynn will certainly come back into the side. They haven't lost faith in Flynn at all, I don't think. But yeah, does he come in this week? Does he come in next week? I'm still not sure. So I've got the buy now there on him because there's still a lot of money to be made. You know, he's got 102 average, this bloke, but the job security is going to be a little bit of a concern from time to time. So if you are not a current set and forget coach, then you've got some slight concerns, I think, because most likely you've got Meek as your R3, and if he's punching out 30s like he did in the weekend, that's going to hurt you very, very quickly. So hopefully for those non-set and forget owners, Matty Flynn comes in sooner rather than later. Tom Hickey, I suppose this is the other selection that you could have in place for Finn on field if you haven't gone with Gawn and Grundy. If that's the case, this has been a bit of a big win, hasn't it? Because he's had an average of 107. What were you paying? Low, mid 200s for him at the start of the season. So made some really nice cash there. Still in the negative break-evens as well, -4. So 112 is his projected score. He's looking to go up another 50k. So Tom Hickey owners, congratulations. I don't think there are many of you, but that's actually worked out okay. Lloyd Meek, the ship has sailed. Certainly can't bring in this bloke now, but yeah, pretty disappointing selection. Rob, well done if you held on to him. He came back to form over the weekend, but still, if you look at that average, even after that good game, still only 86 on the season, but 96 for the 3 round, which is looking a lot better than the season average. Tim English, I watched him very, very closely on the weekend, and he looked fantastic, this bloke. Unstoppable at times, but given the fact that Steph Martin's sharing those ruck duties, as a key forward, I think he can be a little bit inconsistent. We saw what he did last year after that huge game. Lots of people bought him in, hoping that he was going to be the next big thing in 2020. Yeah, those people got hurt towards the end because it just didn't turn out that way, and I still think he's a bit of a trap bringing him into the ruck. I just think you've got to go Gawn and Grundy if you're not going with a rookie ruck at the moment. Big O, just put him there as a pod, same as Goldstein. Yeah, just I wouldn't go there myself. Same as Lysette, bit of a pod there. Grundy, yeah, really unexpected that he got showed up against Mumford, but he'll bounce back, I think. Still a really good selection in our rucks this year, but if you had the captain on him, yeah, you'd be really frustrated and a bit disappointed with Big Brody. Maxi Gawn, he's always going to be a bite now. A captaincy option. We were worried about him really going down in price, and you know that season average getting close to the 115 mark possibly, but look at it, it's 132, 3 round is 145. He's a monster. You've just got to have him in, and wrap that I started with the big fella. And Nick Nat, I've just got him on your watch list there. Again, as a pod, break even of 134, 3 round average of 111. Still okay, that 3 round average, but there's no way that you look to invest in him. I'll tell you what though, I won't give too much away, but, and this is going to sound absolutely crazy, see if you can work out why. It's, yeah, an ultimate crazy move, but I may look to get Nick Nat into my side for 1 to 2 rounds of the season. And finally onto the forwards, 500k plus, only 5 blokes on this list. Up the top, Josh Dunkley, not even going to spend any time on him, just get him into your side ASAP, an absolute must-have this year. Zack Butters, wouldn't you be just so disappointed as a current owner? An average of 103, 3 round average of 105. If he didn't go off injured on the weekend, that average could be, geez, a lot closer to a 120, I think, because he got scaled right back, was just looking so good, but he's a definite sell now. I think he's out for at least the short to medium term, so you basically got no choice. Extremely unlucky, but in regards to who you bring in, there's a Dusty who's been underwhelming. If you haven't got Josh Dunkley, he's the obvious selection. Certainly get him in. If not, you may need to look to go to one of the blokes on the next list in between 250 to 500k, or else use some DPP to either swing a new midfielder in or even get someone in defence if you're able to do that. Dusty Martin, as I said, really underwhelming the last couple of weeks. I regret, or do I regret? Yeah, I do in a way. I do regret bringing him in a couple of weeks ago just before the price rises. He's doing exactly what I thought he'd do, well, during the last 2 weeks anyway, and has been really, really underwhelming. Now, that's why I didn't start with him, because I thought, look, he can look really good at times, but then he'll just go a bit quiet, pretty average in regards to scoring, and you'll be able to pick him up around that 500 mark pretty easily at some stage during the season. And That looks like the case at this stage. So was I tricked into him? He just looked like a bit of a different unit in the first couple of rounds. So maybe I was. I just wanted to go with the pack. Didn't want to look to go too risky. So I was looking for him to bounce back last week. Again, I'm sending an SOS out to Dusty. Come on, mate. Bounce back for me this week. I'm really expecting a solid return on my investment. So do the right thing by me and smash out a decent one this week, Dusty. Tomahawk, a bit of a nothing pick here. Do you sell him if you've got him? Probably not. I suppose you're just told. And Michael Walters, just a real trap selection. I wasn't a big fan of him during the preseason. So with a break even of 174, probably jump ship before it absolutely sails. Onto the forwards, 200 to 500k, a little bit of everything here. The man up the top, Jake Stringer, 282,600, an average of 105, so a low break even of negative 45. If he can hit a projected score of 81 against the Lions, he'll be going up over 55k. So what do I think of the Stringer option? Well, the price point, it's an awkward one. The average is nice, but can we expect Jake Stringer to keep up this current form? I don't think so. History doesn't suggest that. Durability is always going to be a bit of a concern with Stringer, a bit of the NHDP policy. So I wouldn't look to invest in Stringer myself, but this is a pick that could go right. He could be a bit of a quick cash grab, and if all things go well, a low chance of being a keeper, I think. But yeah, tough for me to get a gauge on it. Never been a real fan of Stringer. Jack Ziebell, the kick-out king at North. On average, 58% of all total kick-outs are taken by Ziebell. Hall actually took 58% of the kick-outs on the weekend compared with Jay-Z's lowest average of 42%, but that's all good. He's got the perfect role for SuperCoach, been a really consistent scorer so far, and at this stage, I'm seeing him as keep material. So if you also think he's keep material, then he's still a buy now at that price, I think, if you've missed out on him. Chad Warner, again, love this bloke, almost at 300k now with a season average of 91. Break even, still in the negatives there, negative 23, a projected score of 79, which I think is fair. He'll look to go up 45k if he can hit that on the weekend. Is he a keeper? I'm not as confident as I am on Ziebell and Impey, but he's got a great role there through the midfield. Horst Longmire loves this bloke as well. So there's an outside chance. Is it too late to jump on? Again, it all depends on whether or not you think he's a keeper. That's your decision. Josh Bruce, got the trap on this bloke. I must admit that, as I said, I did go down to the game at Mars Stadium on the weekend to see the Lions and the Dogs. And I did give Brucey a little bit of feedback after Harris Andrews kicked a goal on him.
Harris Andrews will kick more goals than you today, Bruce. Andrews, one up on you, Brucey.
But I don't think Brucey was too upset. Didn't take it to heart. All in good fun. And I think he had the last laugh because the doggies ended up taking out the chocolates on the day. Jarman Impey, similar to CJ, after a slight hiccup in round one score-wise, just hasn't put a foot wrong. Great role, uses his tools well, plays to his strength. They actually look for him to rebound out of defence, his teammates that is. And as a current owner, I'm planning around him being a keeper in my side. I'm not 100%, but there's nothing I've seen to suggest otherwise. Durability may be the only concern, but look, it's safe to say that Impey and Jay-Z are blessings from the SuperCoach gods this year. Cozzy Pickett as a real pod, electrifying type player, super exciting. I wouldn't be brave enough to bring him in at that price point. You'd much rather go with someone like an Impey. But if you're looking for a super pod, yeah, maybe. Look, we don't know what this bloke could be. Fogarty, again, I don't know a lot about him. An average of 96, 3-round average of 101. Still with low break even, so they've got a projected score of 106, which is the highest on this list. Surprising, but there you go. Looking to go up 33k if you can achieve that. The Texan, look, I think that the ship has sailed, unless you think he's an absolute keeper. He's had a really friendly fixture. After his first quarter on the weekend, I was really scared. I think he was on about 45, but in the end it was only a 90-odd score, so a little bit disappointing for current owners, but still making money, looking to go up 28k if you can hit the 100 mark, but Early on, it was 100k, 70 odd k. You can see that price rise is getting smaller and smaller. So you would have had to jump on before this round at least to get some value out of Walker, I think, unless you think he's a premium. Schoenberger's a real pod, just throwing a pod's name out there. Don't look to go him, I don't think. Tommy Atkins, been really impressive, so 92 for the season average, 96 for a 3-round. Lowish break even of 40. Probably don't look to invest at this stage, but if you started with him, he's been a super selection, looking to go up 17k if you can go around 80. Is he going to be a keeper? Well, if you're pegging Jarman Imp to be a keeper, there's no reason why you wouldn't think that Atkins doesn't have similar potential. And Logan McDonald, just keep an eye on him. You may look to need to trade him out soon if another good rookie comes along, such as one of the blokes I'll talk about in a minute. There's only really one bloke I'd be looking at, but he's looking to go up 12,000 if he can hit a projected score of 68. Yeah, have a look and see how he goes in the next couple. Stevenson, think he's a trap. Nothing I really like about this selection. Buddy Franklin, again, I've got the trap symbol on him, been a champion of the past, but durability is always going to be a concern. And if you're looking to select him and bring him into your side, ask yourself the question, how many games do you realistically expect him to play this year? If it's every one, maybe you could look at him, but I just can't see that happening. Joey Danaher was extremely disappointed with this bloke over the weekend. I'll speak with my brother. We were pretty close to the goal, so I watched him pretty closely 2 out of the 4 quarters and just was not working hard enough to get into that dangerous space. It just didn't make sense. A lot of the time, Dev Robertson was the deep option, and Joe was just hanging on the left-hand side of the 50-metre arc, and we were thinking, what is he doing? And lots of the Brisbane supporters that were at the game around us anyway were talking about it, and just couldn't make sense of it. So was he carrying some sort of an injury? Was he sore? I don't have the answers, but yeah, it seemed to us anyway that the work rate wasn't there. Extremely disappointing. Hope he can bounce back. Toby Green, probably haven't given him enough respect over the last couple of weeks. I've now got the pod symbol on him instead of the NDHP. Maybe I can forgive him for the silly things he's done in the past, because 5-goal games, that's 10 goals in the last 2 weeks. He's looking terrific. And is he going to maintain it? Can he maintain it? Look, I don't think so, but he's a super talented player, all Australian quality. And yeah, if you've got him, you've certainly got yourself a nice pot on your hands. But it's so dangerous investing in someone like Toby Green, and I can never really give it my blessing. Same as Chad Wingard. I've got the trap on him there. So 108 for an average, a break even of 49. You may be asking, why have you got the trap? The numbers there seem to be pretty positive, and they are at this stage, but the Chad, you can just never trust him, and he's one of those ultimate burn men. I'm sure that he's on many people's never again list, particularly those people that have played the game for a few years now. I don't need to really explain why. It's that durability, that switch in roles, and at the end of the day, it's the consistency. We just don't see consistent scores from Wingard. He's very up, very down, and the definition of a roller coaster pick. And unfortunately, well, history suggests anyway, that you get more lows than you get ups when it comes to Chad Wingard. Tom Phillips, the butcher as I call him now, just not a big fan of this selection. Really mediocre average of 78 for the season. I think that he was a trap. I got trapped into him, but what do you do with him? That's your decision, I think. I can't really give an opinion because I was an advocate of trading him before the first price rise. I did that personally. I made the wrong decision, I think, in Dusty in the end, but yeah, really glad that he's not on my side and I don't have to stare at him each week. Braden Campbell, this is a really interesting one because if we look at his break even, it is now in the red with a 71 with a season average of 64. So there's 7 points difference there. If he can get himself a 64, which is that season average, obviously he'll be going down 3,100. So you've certainly got to put him on the chopping block this week. This depends on your personal predictions. Now, we've seen one really good game with him where he went 116. Apart from that, it's been nothing special. We've seen a score in the 20s and a couple of scores around the 50 mark. So, yeah, I'm not too sure how he's going to continue to score. Will he be given more opportunities as the season progresses? Will he become more comfortable with the level? I think the answers are yes and yes. Will there be more money to be made on him? I think so, but it's going to be a slow burn, and you may actually, well, it's likely that you'll probably lose money in the short term, but if you can expect him to bounce back, even a couple of 80s on the trot, that will really get his price rise getting closer towards the 300 mark. Will he get there? There's certainly no guarantees either way. Look, there's no guarantee that he goes another 50 score this week. He could go 100 plus because we have seen that ceiling from him already in the first 4 rounds, but with an educated guess, you'd think it would be somewhere close to that projected score. So it's up to you if you want to trade him out this week. You could get him out for one of the options that we'll see next, but yeah, purely your decision and team dependent. If you want to keep the faith, go for it. If you want to trade him out, I can see why. Dane Zorko, a trap, a season average of 91, nothing special at all when you got players like Zeeble, Warner, Impey, all averaging more. Just don't look to get him into your side. Jordan Dougherty, an absolute trap, 398,300. I think it was in the preseason game that he was looking really, really good, but never a fan of this selection. An average of 67 for the season. What do you do with him? I'm not sure. You just shouldn't have selected him at the start. And Isaac Heaney, 448,300. I mentioned a couple of times in round review, maybe during the stock market, that Heaney's the type of bloke that's just going to get one of these freak injuries. Durability is always a major concern. And look at what happened. He's gone and got himself a hand injury. So he'll be out for 3 to 5 weeks, I think it is. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I think it's close to that mark. He's now a must-sell. Extremely disappointing for owners. But when you start with someone like a Heaney or invest in someone like a Heaney, these are the consequences that you have to face, and you know that it's going to be a risky selection from the starts. And to finish us off for this week, the forwards under 250k. So the best buy by the length of the Flemington Straight this week is Alec Waterman, 102,400, 69 for an average, a negative break even of 77. So if he can get his projected score of 69, he will rise up over 64k. So clearly the best buy this week. I think his ownership will be around the 30% mark at least. Mitch Lewis, 199,500, 79 for an average, so pretty impressive. A negative break even of 41. He's looking to go up around 45k if he can get a score of 60. A pod selection, but I much rather the Waterman pick. You're saving almost 100k there. 10 less for the average at this stage, but yeah, much rather the Waterman pick. Bergman, if you've got him, keep on to him because I think he comes in this week, but job security is always going to be a concern. Dev Robinson was actually playing out of the square for a large majority of the Lions Bulldogs match. Not sure if you got to see it on the TV screens or not, but at 176,800, really rate him as a player, but with an average of 59, negative break even of 15, there's probably not enough value for me at this stage. And he's not playing his best role, which is an inside midfielder. He's just not getting the minutes in there at this stage. But if Lachie Neale has a rest and he gets that opportunity, then that average could spike right up. But at this, yeah, but it's hard to know whether or not he'll get that opportunity anytime soon. Harrison Jones, yeah, keep on your watch list. Same as Rowe. Scott, does he play? Possibly. Does he get dropped? Possibly. Frederick, he's been okay for 58, 206,000. Wouldn't look to invest in him. Fullerton's starting to get worried about his job security now. I said from the start that he'd have good short-term job security while Dan Mcrae was out, but Mcrae is very, very close to a return. I'm not sure if it will be this week or next week, but I expect him to come in for Fullerton. Archie Perkins got some DPP, but with an average of 43, not an overly high disposal winner. I'm not a huge fan of this pick. Brockman, keep him on your watch list. Don't look to sell him yet. If you're desperate to, you can. If you want to get a Waterman in, he's certainly going to make some more money in the short term, but there's no desperate need to trade out Brockman if you don't have to. There is desperate need to trade out this bloke, Paddy Dow. He's not going to lose a heap of money, but to me, he's a dead rookie. He's just not worth having in your side, and it is such an easy decision for me personally this week to go out Paddy Dow and in Waterman because I just think that he's an absolute dud, and do not want to look at him every week in my side. So I'll be really, really happy to do that trade. But that is it for this week, guys. Thanks very much for sticking with me the whole way. I know we've gone above the 1 hour mark again. I need to grab a drink because my throat's getting a little bit dry. So I hope that helped in some small way with making some crucial decisions for this week. We know that Daniel's probably got to go. You may keep the faith, up to you. We know that Heaney's got to go. Butters has to go. So there are certainly a few coaches with some crucial decisions that they'll need to make this week. Take care, guys. Good luck with everything that you're doing, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Cheers. Bye.